Four Lions, When Saturday Comes, Threads, and recently released Everybody's Talking About Jamie. All very good films, but none's been quite as successful as The Full Monty. It was released in 1997 with a budget of, I think it was £3.5 million, and it grossed over 300 million, I believe, probably the 350 million mark. Now, a budget of £3 million probably sounds quite a lot, but just to put that into perspective for you, the Titanic was released in the same year, and that had a budget of £200 million. So, in terms of the film industry, The Full Monty had quite a low budget. So why does that bring us to a graveyard? So today we're doing the Full Monty tour. We're going to go around just some of the scenes, or the locations where the scenes were filmed. I would do them all, but I haven't got enough time, unfortunately. So we're here at Crook Cemetery, and this is where Lomper's mum's funeral was filmed. Lomper attended the funeral accompanied by his brass band and played a nice little number. So it's really difficult to try and figure out where the exact scene took place, but by my reckoning it's around this area here, just where them houses are there. I've referenced a few houses in the film, and it looks like it's in this general area here. And then after the funeral service we see Gaz and Dave leaned on a car having a cigarette, and this is where we see that Lomper and Guy, played by Hugo Spear, are holding hands, and that's kind of like the big reveal or confirmation, but they are gay characters in the film. So in that scene where Gaz and Dave are leant against the car, it is on a slight incline, so with my guess as the funeral being filmed just up there, I would guess that Dave and Gaz were stood just here on this little slope here. So this is Crook Cemetery. So like I said, we're going to make our way through Sheffield. It's going to be all edited down. It's only going to last about 20 minutes in real life, but this is going to take up my entire day. But in this video, you will notice when the light is right, you'll see, but I've got a little bit of a moustache coming on. It's not a very good one, but that's the whole point. There's a very good reason for that, so stick around and you'll find out why that is. Now, one thing what I've tried to do in this video is, instead of just coming to the location of the filming and talking about that, I've tried to find something interesting about the place itself. And if I'm correct, I should just be approaching now, but if you've ever drove past a construction site anywhere in the UK, you'll have seen this sign. This is a very famous company in the construction industry, and I am correct. So just behind me is the grave of Henry Boot, which, like I said, is one of the most successful construction companies in the UK. It actually had an operating income of £49.2 million last year, so that was founded here in Sheffield. And Henry Boot, its founder, is just here. One of my favourite shots of the film, though, you'll see, I'll pop it up on the screen for you now. I believe this is taken over Winkerbank, and it shows you the Tinsley Towers, which were demolished in 2008, and the Tinsley Viaduct, either in the evening or early morning. I just think that's a great shot. So I think that was shot from Winkerbank or thereabouts. Again, they're the kind of things you can't find the exact spot where that were filmed unless you actually talk to the cameraman. So if you're out there, cameraman, give me a shout. So we've just arrived in Walkley. At the start of this scene we see Gaz and Dave walking up alongside Lomper and Nathan. Just over the brow of a hill, that is Blake Street just behind me. And they're off to go and see Gerald, who's just had his job interview, failed job interview, which was ruined by Gaz ultimately. And they go and meet, just across this road we are dying. They go and meet Gerald, who is sat on a bench, which is opposite this pub behind me, which is the Blake. Now, where we are just now, the benches have changed positions, so you can see behind me just there is where the new bench is, but the bench Gerald is sat on is roughly just in this area here. Now, I've looked for any markings to see where the original bench once stood, but it's not there anymore. But joining me now is a very good friend of mine, someone I've known a long time, and he's wearing something which is closely related to the film. Mr. David Steer, everybody.
Hello.
He's wearing the actual shirt which Gaz wore in the film, the famous Sheffield United shirt. But
I'm slightly more rotund than Robert Carlyle was.
David here does remember some of the filming, what took place. Not very much.
No.
There wasn't very much to see. What can you remember? Can you remember
Just remember
seeing film
down
crews?
at the roundabout in the park. We just saw that was a group round. They were doing some filming. They put some extra grass under the roundabout to make it look a bit tidier, I suppose. But we had no idea what it was to do with.
And then the pub behind me, the Blake. So in the film, that pub was still an operating pub, but did shut down a few years later. Now, it's one of the few pubs what shuts down and then gets reopened and is a relative success. I've been in there myself. They do a lovely strawberry beer. But what do you remember? You know, we were shocked to see it reopened after it had been closed for so long.
Well, yeah, it was about 7 years or so.
So that's quite a while for a pub to be
yeah.
closed. You're talking about deterioration
Yeah.
inside and...
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. It was that what they've done in there now. They've stripped it back. You know, stone floor, fireplaces, probably back to what it was. And there's no music, no one-armed bandits, just good beer, loads of whiskies apparently, good ciders, and good crack.
Not a bad pub to have as your local then.
No.
So, like I said, we're just here where Gerald was sat, just on a bench around this area here, and behind me is the park which they then walk down. So we're going to go down there now and have a little look at what's left. So after this scene we see Gerald, Gaz, Dave, Nathan all walk down into the park here at Ruskin Park. It's looking a little different these days. There's a brand new adventure play area just there which has been installed recently, and by my reckoning you'll see the roundabout which is on the park. That is roughly where that little table is now, so I'm told by Mr. Steer behind me. So educating me. So yeah, this is the part where they walk through. Like I said, changed a little bit, but still a bit recognisable from the film. Now, another scene what's confusing in this film is that the scene with the Tinsley Towers, which I spoke about earlier, shows you overlooking the city towards the Tinsley Towers, which I said I suspected was filmed up at Winkerbank somewhere. And when the scene cuts to Gaz, Lomper and Dave sat on the hillside, it's actually Parkwood Springs, I believe, because if you look very closely you could just make out a building, and it looks suspiciously to me like the Old Stones Brewery, which is down Neep's End. So I would strongly suspect that they're actually sat on the hillside up on Parkwood Springs instead of at Winkerbank like the film shows. Now I'm just on my way down to Langsett Road, and as you can see just up there is the former Parkwood Springs estate. Now that is where some of the scenes were filmed, especially when we first meet Lomper when he is attempting to kill himself after losing his job at Harrison's. Gaz and Dave are up jogging there. Now I'm not going to go up there for the specific reason I'm doing another video there in the very near future, so I don't really want to spoil any of that. So, but that is where the jogging scene was filmed, just on that hillside up there. So in this next scene, this is just after a scene in the former steelworks where Gaz does his first like strip in front of Dave, in front of Dave, Nathan and Lomper. They've just ordered a Chinese, which for some reason I think it's been kept warm in the engine of the car. But after Gaz does the initial strip, Nathan gets very embarrassed and ends up doing a runner. So we then see Dave, Lomper and Gaz in a car travelling along the Wicker, searching for Nathan. But the scene changes. Some of you will notice this, but so they're driving along Wicker, but then the scene changes to Langsett Road, which is where we are now. And this is where we see Nathan, who gets pointed out by Lomper, and he's walking up this stretch of road here. He walks past this house here, and where this block of flats is here is where the petrol station is. And this is where Gaz gets out of the car and eventually tells Nathan that he loves him and that being his dad counts or something. And I think that's the first time in the film we actually see, you know, some emotional backstory to all of this. It's a comedy, but there's a very interesting backstory to the film. It's got an emotional connection as to why Gaz is doing all of this. So just where these flats are is where the petrol station stood, where Gaz and Nathan make up, and off they go. Right, so we finally made it down to Bacon Lane. It took me about an hour and a half to get down here from Millsby because Sheffield buses are fantastic and they're never late or don't turn up. So this is where the scene was filmed with the car in the water. So Gaz and Dave in the opening scene are seen nicking a rusty old girder from their old place of work, which is supposedly just behind the canal here, but like I said previously, I think them scenes were actually filmed down on Newell Road. So we're down at the canal now. A lot's changed down here. The canal's not changed much, but the surrounding buildings have. So as you can see behind me, a lot of the buildings what were in the scene have now disappeared from sight. But this is the Sheffield and Tinsley Canal. It's opened in 1819, I believe. And believe it or not, when this canal was opened, I believe the people of Sheffield actually got a holiday, public holiday, where they all got the day off work, and I think 60,000 people turned up to witness the first barge just coming up and down the canal, obviously for industrial use. And I think the first barge what come down the Sheffield and Tinsley Canal was from Handsworth Colliery, carrying coal. So yeah, apparently 60,000 people turned up to that. So I can't wait until HS2 is finished and we all get a public holiday on the day off work. A lot of sarcasm today. So by my reckoning, the car scene would have been filmed just around this spot here. Like I say, it's very hard to tell because of the buildings that have disappeared. But I think the car in the water was, I'm not a car expert, it looked like a Cortina, Ford Cortina. So obviously I think that was a specialist prop what had been brought in and took out the water after. But the actual girder what Nathan picks up and tries to slide across, he drops in the water. And it looks like a genuine girder, so who knows, maybe that's still in the bottom of the canal, but that was just around here. Gaz and Dave stood on top of an old car. Okay, so we're in Handsworth now, and this is where the supermarket scenes were filmed. This is the former site of the Asda supermarket down at Orgreave. Just behind me is where the main entrance used to be. There was a petrol station, which was quite unusual because unlike petrol stations these days, where you fill up and then you walk into the little shop with the overpriced crisps and drinks, etc, etc, these had little cabins on the exit. So an old school petrol station where you filled up and then you called at this little cabin, you stayed in your car and you handed your money over. So this was built on not too long ago, probably say July. This was completed, this new industrial unit. So we're just going to go and have a wander around, and I will try and show you where most of the scenes were filmed. Now this particular site, access to this site has been freely available for years and years and years, but over the last 2 years it's been fenced off because quite an unusual situation. I believe it's TL Killis, the cleaning product manufacturer, which is located on the industrial estate down there, bought the land with the intention to build a new premises there, and then it kind of didn't happen. So it's been sealed off. I've actually personally explored this site many years ago now, and there was actually most of the floor was still there on the site. You know, that typical supermarket floor. So this, what I'm just approaching, is the old main entrance to the supermarket. It's been gated off for years, absolutely years. This supermarket closed in 1998 from memory. I do remember coming here as a young one because I only lived up the road. So 1998, I believe it closed. Opened in the late 1960s, I believe, and it was ultimately replaced by the new supermarket up at the top of Handsworth. So as you walk along Rotherham Road, there's this little gap in the wall. There you go. And that gap was where the original pathway for pedestrians to go down to the entrance of the Asda. And the entrance area, the little covered areas where the scenes were filmed, where Gaz runs out stealing the jacket, and Dave comes running after him and collars him, good and proper, up against trolleys. And behind that you can see the actual spoil heap from the Orgreave Opencast, which features on the first video we did on this channel, so make sure you go and check that out. So you can see that clearly in the background, but yeah, just down there. I will give you a closer look because there's some of the old handrails which led down to the entrance of the old Asda. So just while we're here on the subject, a little interesting story about the new Asda at the top of Handsworth. When it replaced this Asda in 1998, it was built in the old style, shall we say, just a downstairs, no upstairs. And quite some time after, probably about 6-7 months later, the new standard design for supermarkets was just coming into focus. So what happened then was, Asda decided they were going to actually install an upstairs. They thought, oh, we've missed a trick here. So they installed an upstairs, but because of that, they had to close parts of the downstairs section, and it'd be different sections at a time as they built the new upstairs bit going along. So this led to them constructing a temporary building. Part of me wants to say it was inflatable from memory. I do remember going in it. I was probably only about 4 at the time, but it was a temporary structure, and because of the nature of them going along and constructing different parts at a time, different parts of the supermarket had to move into the temporary structure. So every week you go in, it'd be something different in there. It'd be technology one week, then it'd be food, and then cereals and all sorts. So yeah, quite a confusing time. So if anybody's got any photos or memories in that, let me know, because I do remember that. And another interesting fact for you, I'm going off on a tangent here. Another interesting fact is, but I've been to a Asda in Tamworth, and it's exactly the same design as the one at Handsworth. Must have been built in the same year, but it's exactly the same. You walk in, you know, whoa, I'm at Asda Handsworth, but you're not, you're in Tamworth. So there's another interesting fact for you. So just some more scenes, what we've not covered, just as I make my way to our next location. When it's revealed that Lomper is part of Hot Metal. Obviously, all his mates in the brass band he practices with starts royally taking the mick out of him. And that scene where they're practicing, it's in some sort of, looks like abandoned old warehouse type building. I'm led to believe that is the old Sheffield bus depot, which is on Shoreham Street, which was originally the old tram depot for the old Sheffield trams. It's still there today, but it's now been partially converted into student flats. And another scene, the Keep Fit scene, where they're all playing football, that is up at Sky Edge. So if you ever want to visit there, some lovely views over the city. And as if by magic, we're back in the graveyard at Crook's. I did promise at the start of this video that I would say why I've got this little pathetic moustache going on. It's for a thing called Movember, and it's a charity which supports men's health. Now you see this video is intertwined. It's a video about 6 men going out and stripping naked for a bit of money. But the importance of men's health is very important, and as you'll have probably seen in a couple of the videos or posts I've put on History 0114, I lost 2 people very close to me this year within 3 months of each other. Both suffered with issues which are related to men's health. Both had scares, or was diagnosed with prostate cancer. So I am doing Movember. Movember essentially is where people like me grew the moustache for the entire month of November. So from the 1st right way through to the 31st, and then I shave it clean as we enter December. Now, for me, I cannot grow facial hair very well. So while some other guys might look really cool, it's going to be quite difficult for me. I'm going to look like an absolute idiot. But that's all part of it. It raises money for a good cause. I have got a page set up, and if you would like to donate, that would be very much appreciated. We're aiming to raise £150. So I will pop the link in the description below. If you click onto the link, you'll see this page. You'll see my stupid face with a moustache, and there'll be a big button which says donate. Click that, and if you can donate, it'd be fantastic. I have been debating for a long time about these videos. People have said, why don't you monetize them, why don't you put adverts on, which I have done in the past, not for very much money, but it's just too much hassle in terms of like using photos, and people can be a bit funny about using their photos for a commercial purpose and stuff like that. So I've come to the decision now, but I'm really not interested in all that. I don't really care. I don't do it for any money. It's I do it because I love Sheffield and I love Sheffield history, and I want to, you know, tell all you guys and share interesting stories and etc, etc. So I've decided now that all major videos what I do on History 014 will have a dedicated charity. I'll set up a little page where it can be accessed and you can donate to the chosen charity. So that is that. Right, so we're on Idsworth Road in Page Hall now, and this is probably the saddest scene, or the modern day scene, from the film. Now, just after Gaz, Dave and Nathan have been in that car scene, and Dave and Gaz have got a bit wet, they are seen coming down some steps, and that is just here. That leads out onto Idsworth Road. Then if we cross the road, you'll be able to see behind me. This is the sorry looking facade of the club. Now, as you can see in the film, it looks a lot better than it does these days. It's really bright red, it looks really vibrant. I think it's just exactly what they wanted the working man's club to look like in the film. A place what's very bright, packed full of people. But this place isn't actually a club, and never really was. I believe it opened in 1920 as a cinema, and it closed in 1959. It then went through the usual old cinema routine of becoming a bingo hall. And then it was a furniture warehouse, which closed last year, I think. May still be in operation, I'm not sure on that, I'll have to check on that, but I do believe it's disused now, so that is the sorry looking club just behind me. And unfortunately, these type of buildings, like we've seen a lot in Sheffield, once they reach this stage, nobody really comes to save them. So unfortunately, I think if this furniture warehouse has now closed, I think the end may be nigh for this historic building. So here we are just outside, which was the outside of the club. We'll get to the inside later. Just there, where Gaz is seen pointing to the posters of the Chippendales and heavily criticising them. But as you can see, this building now is not in a good way at all. So the end is nigh for what was the full Monty Club. Now we've just finished at Idsworth Road, showing the exterior of the club, and that brings us here to Shiregreen Lane, and that's because this is Shiregreen Working Men's Club, and as you can see, it's got demolition in progress signs outside. Now it's a bit up in the air about what's happening with this at the moment. There was a battle, I think it was about a year ago, where some developers bought it and planned to either convert it or demolish it completely and turn it into something else. The locals weren't happy about it, and obviously rightfully so, you know, it's part of film history in Sheffield. So it's a bit up in air. I'm still not sure what's going on with it, but it's in a sorry state at the moment, as we saw with the exterior of the club. So all the interior scenes of the club were filmed here at the Shiregreen Working Men's Club. It was shot at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, believe it or not, despite it looking like it were shot on a Saturday night, a rowdy Saturday night at that. So it was actually shot at 1 o'clock in the afternoon in this building behind me. And according to an interview done by Hugo Spear, who plays Guy in the film, they had 50 extras in the building, and the rest of the people were made up from just locals, what they got around and put posters up and advertised, but they were filming a scene here and they wanted a full house. So the interesting thing about that though is that none of the people in the crowd knew but they were going to do the full Monty for real. It was all real, there was no camera trickery. All the guys bared all in front of all them people for real. So that was a natural reaction, and that's why they did it. The producers and the directors wanted the crowd not to know, so they got a genuine shock, horror, wow reaction, and I think it worked. So this is the Shiregreen Working Men's Club. Like I say, it's not looking too good right now, and as you can see just behind me it says home of the full Monty, but for how much longer? Right, so we're inside a shop right now, and that is because when it's revealed in the Sheffield Star that it is Dave, Gaz, Gerald, etc. who were involved in the Hot Metal Act, then Gerald, and this is one of my favourite scenes in the film, is where Gerald comes down to the shop and he buys every single copy of the Sheffield Star, and then he walks out of the shop, and that is this shop here, which is located on the corner of Granville Road and City Road. So that is where Gerald walks out, and as you can see behind me there's a little wall just there, and there was a bin there, so Gerald walks out of the shop and down onto Granville Road, and he dumps all the copies of the Sheffield Star which he's just bought into the bin. Now obviously back in 1997 there was no internet. This is a time when we could control or partially control what got out there, so it's one of my favourite scenes in the film. Very, very funny, and to be fair to Gerald, that's probably what I'd have done, so fair play to him. So as you can see, the bin is no longer there, but it all looks pretty much the same apart from the exterior cladding on the shop, which has obviously changed, that it's changed owners. Big thank you to the owners, by the way, for letting me film inside the shop. Very much appreciated. During filming I was meant to mention a couple of the lesser known scenes in the film, but unfortunately I forgot. So now we're home, we're just going to quickly run through some of them and then we'll get back to the tour. So up first we've got Evershore Textiles. That was located on Meadowhall Road. This is the scene where Gaz sees Nathan's mum and she offers him a job at £2.50 an hour. So that was Evershore Textiles on Meadowhall Road, just across from where the Oasis is located. That closed in 2001. The scene where the lads are approached by two ladies as they are putting up their posters promoting the show, Hot Metal. The two ladies approach them on the road and quiz them about what they're up to. That is on Daffodil Road, which is just off Jenkin Road in Winkerbank. There's been quite a lot of developments there recently. There's quite a lot of new houses, so it's a bit unrecognisable from what it were, but that was where that scene was filmed. Very briefly, we do see the Heeley depot, the council depot. You can just see in this shot here the salt dome, where all the grit salt is kept for Sheffield's roads. Up next we have got Cartonall's School. This is where Dave and Gerald are stood at the bus stop, and Gerald asks Dave for his advice about getting a stiffy during the performance. So that is Cartonall's School. And then finally, one very brief scene at the start. It's the only time I believe we do see the exterior of the job centre. But that is on West Street. A lot of you will recognise it. And that is still a job centre to this day, so still serves that purpose. Right, back to the tour. So another scene which we're not going to cover today, but I will show you on the screen, is Gaz is walking up the road and he comes out on, I believe it's Infirmary Road. I think it's just on the border between Langsett Road and Infirmary Road. He's just been confronted by two guys who are pretending to take the shirts off. Obviously it's all been revealed at that point, but it's Gaz what's behind the Hot Metal stripping act. And when he comes out on Langsett Road, he's stopped by the landlord of the Working Men's Club, and it's all revealed that he's sold 400 tickets. So that's where that scene is filmed, just on the border between Langsett and Infirmary Road, I believe. I won't be visiting any houses in the film. Reasoning for that is it's still people's houses. I wouldn't personally like it myself, so a bit of respect for them. I won't be visiting any houses. I'm not keeping it secret, you know, the locations of these houses are widely available on the internet, so if you do want to find that out, that's up to you, but I won't be filming at them places. But just for a little context to the characters in this film, Gerald lives up at Werlow. Obviously he were a foreman at their former workplace, so naturally he's got a bit more dollar than the rest of the guys, so he lives up at Werlow. Gaz, he lives at Regent Court Flats in Hillsborough. Dave lives in a house just off Meadowbank Road, which I think technically is in Rotherham, just over the border. So Lomper, he lives at Peveril Road in a terraced house there. It's the same house we see when he's running through the gardens with Guy in his red leather thong before they climb up through the window and have that moment. And as for Guy and Horse, it remains to be seen where they lived. Okay, so we've just arrived at Burton Street. Now in this scene, this is where Gaz is seen taking Nathan up to school, and we see him walk around the corner just up here. Watch out for cars. And this featured in quite a lot of scenes which are in this film, especially later on when Gary is seen waiting for Nathan outside school, and it becomes apparent that social services have stopped Gary from seeing Nathan due to the nature of the act, what they were caught doing. So just want to show you a few shots from the film. You'll notice, but on the hill behind me there's a big white building, and that is Shirecliffe College. Now Shirecliffe College actually run this building, I think, at the time of filming. So this is Burton Street School. It closed in 1963 as a school, and then it operated as I think it was a music centre. It was like a different branch of the Shirecliffe College. So the building you can see, the big white building you can see in the background, they ran this place, I think, at the time of filming. May be wrong on that one. But I'm sure you're wondering why there's a school in the middle of a place which is full of industrial units and such, and that's because this place and this road used to be full of terraced housing at the time. When the school was built, it was built for the people that lived in the terraced housing around this area. And I'm guessing a lot of the people would have worked down at the many industrial units or workplaces down in Neep's End. So that is why the school is here. So we've come here because Burton Street, the Burton Street Foundation, very kindly allowed us to go into the building. The reason for that being is because from studying the film, I believe that a number of the scenes in different locations in the film were all filmed in this building. So we're going to go and try and see if we can find where these scenes were filmed. The main ones on my list are the police station, where the guys are in the interview room and comically are given the remote to start rewinding because they think that they're in front in the routine. Gerald's interview, I think that may be in a small room here, and also the dance hall where we first see Gerald with his wife in the dance class. I think that may be here as well. So we're going to go inside and we're going to see what exactly we can find. So just as we approach the school, you can see that the original fencing is still up, but I believe the part of the fence where Gaz jumps up and shouts at Nathan as he enters the school was just about here. So that fence no longer exists, but this is the spot. Right, so we're now inside the Burton Street School, which is now the Burton Street Foundation. Now it might look a lot different now, and that's because it's been renovated and there's been a lot of work go on here. So like I say, it looks a lot different to what it was, but I'm told, so this was part of the main hall, this section here. It's only a small room now, as you can see, but this wall here, it's paper thin, it's just been divided off to create another space for the good work what they do here at the Burton Street Foundation. And that door behind me, again I'm told, is the door which Gerald walked through with his wife to find Gaz and co sat there poking fun at him. So yeah, it looks a lot different in here now, so big thanks to the Burton Street Foundation for letting us come in here. And we're off to the other side of the building now, I believe, to see if we can find any other scenes. So we're stood here in the ballroom. As you can see, it's not that much has changed, to be fair. You can still see the wooden panelling on the walls. So it's not changed that drastically in here. It looks very pretty with the lights. They've done a really good job in here, maintaining this old building. So this is the dance hall. So we've just come out of the Burton Street Foundation. A big thank you to them for letting us in. One scene we couldn't get in there because there was an event going on in that space, was the hot stuff scene. This is probably one of the most famous scenes in the film. It's where the guys are stood in the door queue and hot stuff comes on over the radio, and as the music's playing they start giving it that one and going along with the dance routine. That scene was actually filmed in here. It was all like false walls, I'm told, and stuff like that. That was filmed in one of the rooms in there, but unfortunately we can't go in there at the moment because there's an event taking place. So yeah, that was from there. The other scenes I've tried to get in there, what I suspect are filmed in there, are Gerald's interview. So when Gerald gets the interview from a mate who used to work at Harrison's and he thought the job was nailed on, the interview room looks very, very, very similar to a lot of the rooms in this place, especially like the windows design, and you can see but the iron fencing outside. I have tried to locate that room, but I've not been able to, probably because it's changed so much. Like I said, it's probably one of them things where we'd have to actually speak to the guys who filmed it or the producer or whatever. And the police station scene, again, where Gaz and co are arrested for indecent exposure. They're at a police station. It looks like, again, They're in a building which is very similar in design. The doors and the walls look very similar in design to a lot of the rooms in this place, so I suspect highly that they were filmed here too, mainly for logistical reasons as well. You know, if they can film a lot of scenes in one place, then it makes it cheaper. So thank you for joining us. That's it. That's all wrapped up. Remember, this video is for charity, so if you enjoyed it, and if you can, please donate. As I explained earlier, if you go into the link in the description, you'll see a big donate button. It's for Movember and men's health, and we'll be picking a different charity to support for his next video. So thank you for joining us, and I hope to see you again very soon.